We all want to do good in the world, but where do we start? The mission of the D. Gary Young Young Living Foundation pledges to nurture potential, rescue the harmed, and protect the earth. It doesn't have to feel like you are trying to cure all the world's ills on your own. Whatever your passion is in making our world a better place, we are trying to do it together. Hello and welcome to Young Living's podcast, The Wild Drop. My name is Jacob Young, your host. Young Living is a world leader in producing and distributing premium essential oils, and this podcast will provide you with drops of information about Young Living, including stories, history, product information, lots of little fun facts, and even more. Welcome to the podcast for the first time, Arturo Fuentes. How are you today?
I'm great. Thank you, Jacob.
Good. Well, I think because it is your first time, it'd be fantastic if you would explain to everybody who you are, what you do, and how you ended up getting to where you are now.
Yeah, I'd love that. So my name's Arturo, obviously. I've been with Young Living for about 3.5 years. And my title is Director of Philanthropy, which is essentially managing our partnerships and our programs and monitoring all the wonderful charitable causes that our foundation puts money to. So essentially how those change lives and measuring that impact to make sure that the dollars are being maximized to the best way possible. And how I ended up here, I actually got recruited. I've been in this industry my whole career in different nonprofits, specifically leading up to Young Living. I had been working with other nonprofits, including I was on the board of the Elizabeth Smart Foundation, and my trajectory had gone into more sex crimes against children and human exploitation. And with the focus the foundation had on this area, I was approached, and I interviewed, and I got a feel for the foundation, and I joined, and it's been my favorite place I've worked so far.
Fantastic. I'm really happy to hear that, especially that your background has always been focused around philanthropy and making sure that every dollar that's spent impacts the lives of so many in such a great, profound way. So I love that that's something that you've been extremely dedicated to.
There is a science to it. Sometimes we think, oh, good intentions are enough. But when you dive deep into this industry of trying to, quote unquote, save the world, you even look at the last 6 decades, it's fraught with a lot of failed attempts that not only left things neutral, and in a lot of cases, philanthropy can leave things worse off. When you just dive into a developing economy thinking I have this idea that's going to lift these people out of poverty, or it's going to resolve these sicknesses or improve education. And sometimes when that's not done correctly or responsibly, it can create devastating impacts on whether it's rural economies or interpersonal community dynamics, you name it. So I'm passionate about doing things right and doing the right due diligence and the right evaluation and follow-up to make sure we're responsibly creating programs that do benefit.
Fantastic, and thank you for doing that. My dad had a saying that do it right once so you don't have to do it again. And what he kind of meant by that is you're very right, and there's quite a lot of philanthropy that goes on in the world. And I know a lot of people do mean well, but not necessarily is it always done right. And you're right, it does kind of leave an area of disaster more than an area of hope. And when we had left to go to Nepal, there was a organization there that had arrived 6-7 months prior to my dad showing up. And the Nepali people had told us that they showed up, said that they would collect some money and that they would need some funds. And so the Nepali people ended up providing them with some money to go back and collect other funds and get some more organizations to help them. This was right after the earthquake, and they never showed back up again.
Wow.
And so after my dad had found that out and realized that they basically had been scammed and weren't going to be helped, he then came back home, gathered a bunch of people, more organizations, and we revisited Kathmandu and purchased all the heavy equipment that you can think of that was in Kathmandu and shipped it up to Yarsa and got started on that. And when we just finished that project, actually, we just finished the Yarsa rebuilding project for all the schools and the housing. I think it was late last year that we finished it, or early this year. I can't remember. Always wanted to go back, but never had the opportunity. So you're right.
Yeah, and that's
just making sure to do it right is absolutely important.
That's the way you do it right. And what's beautiful is that those relationships have continued. I just emailed the main liaison just last week, and those projects are still reaping the fruits of that. It reminds me, my first internship as a starry-eyed sophomore in college was evaluating these projects in Mozambique. And some of them were water wells. And you think, what can go wrong when you give people access to water? And I followed up on about 20 of them. 19 of them weren't working. And these villagers had invested these large gardens because they thought they had access to water. And the nonprofit never went back to fix them. And so it's almost like, and they would tell me like, hey, we paid money to buy all these seeds because they said, now you have water. These wells dried up within a couple months.
Oh, man.
And then in those same 4 months, I also saw like an empty health clinic. Someone thinking, oh, this place needs a health clinic. Let's build one. Oh, who's going to take care of all those costs? I've seen empty schools. I saw this housing program for widows or for single moms, completely habitated by men, because eventually men just came back and they thought, oh, there's actually cement living houses.
Oh, man.
Anyway, so just the anthropology of the work of understanding the cultural nuances and how projects will sustain. It's not just about building a school, but who's going to pay for the teachers, how are the students going to get to the classrooms. Sometimes we like to think that there's a silver bullet of education solves poverty.
But that's not always the case.
No, I lived in Jordan for about 8 months, and there was this ongoing trend that me and my colleagues would see where our taxi drivers had PhDs and master's programs, but there just wasn't any jobs. So just every place is unique, and what works in one location doesn't always work.
The culture is extremely different no matter where you go. So I think it'd be great if you could kind of quickly go over some of the projects that we've had, that we've completed, some new projects that we have going on, and then obviously we'll get to the creme de la creme of this podcast, which is the book drive that we are hosting this year at Convention.
Yeah, I'd love to. So we announced a new mission last year. Nonprofits love to change our mission statements, so and that's not a bad thing, because it's important in the social impact industry to stay on with the times, and we especially thought it was prudent to add an environmental component to our mission because the company already does so much for the planet. So our new mission is to nurture potential, rescue the harmed, and protect the earth. So I'll talk a little bit about each of those. Nurture potential is essentially where our educational programs come into. So you can look at this focus as removing barriers that keep kids from obtaining an education. And those barriers look different in different locations. So for example, in Ecuador, where our Young Living Academy is, a huge barrier was just the high rates of poverty. And even food insecurity, which is a cause for a lot of students to stop learning and perpetuates early dropouts. But in places like Mexico, we target the location that has the highest amounts of dropouts for students, and that's because of the mountainous areas, the indigenous rural economies. We support educational programs in Uganda. We even did one in Afghanistan prior to the Taliban taking over, and we're still supporting some of those girls who are now in Rwanda. So yeah, anything education related, which is in different countries all over the world, falls under nurturing that potential. Rescuing the harmed is a lot of our human exploitation work. So most people are familiar with the lighthouses in partnership with Hope for Justice, which are these rehabilitation centers where children who've been victimized by sex trafficking are rescued and they start their journey of healing. And we have over a dozen of those lighthouses that we support. On top of that, we've started programs in Arctic Canada where children experience abuse at 10 times the national average and suicide at 10 times the national average. And we have been able to serve children who've experienced abuse. And it's been one of my favorite projects in this indigenous location. Here locally, we've supported the youth homeless shelter. A lot of those kids are victimized by trafficking. I've heard horrendous stories about how easily people prey on homeless youth. And so we're working with things there. And also with Prevent Child Abuse Utah, we are sponsoring their digital training, which will be able to be reached by about 30,000 people a year.
Wow, fantastic.
To make sure to help, especially educators, people in schools, people working with students to recognize signs of potential abuse and how to respond and create safer environments for kids. The statistics right now, about 1 in 6 children in Utah will experience abuse. And
it should be 1 and none.
It should be, and that's what we're aiming for, which is why prevention is such a big deal. One of my favorite projects that I got to work on, which we announced last year, was a training for online safety for kids. Right now, as we have entered this really complex digital world, a lot of parents have struggled with wrapping their heads around technology and how to keep kids safe. We've seen a lot of exploitation move virtually, especially during global COVID shutdowns. And so we designed this training to help parents better safeguard their kids. I actually got a text from Hope for Justice yesterday saying, thank you so much for co-creating this with us. It's already won 3 awards, and that training can be accessed for free on our website.
Fantastic. That's great to hear.
3 modules, 20 minutes each, and it helps you just have very practical steps to keep your kids safer online.
And when you say on the website, do you mean the D. Gary Young Living Foundation?
The younglivingfoundation.org website, yeah.
Fantastic. And we'll have a link for that down below in the description if you're over here watching on YouTube. And if you're not, come check us out. But the link will be down there. Yeah, well, that's great to hear. And as well as the program that we did last year for the tribe down in southern Utah that Joseph went and participated in to install electricity for them.
Navajos.
The Navajo tribe.
Nation.
Yeah. But it was great to see Joseph go down there and help install electricity on all the solar panels. And it was just sad to hear that so many of them were, they had so many obstacles with school because they didn't have access to electricity a lot of the time. And so by putting in that electricity, they were able to improve in their education as well, to have light at night to do homework and to read, and to study. So that was really great to hear.
Yeah, and that project on the Navajo reservation, every once in a while we have a project that hits 2 birds with 1 stone. That one covered, of course, access to education, but also this third focus area, which is protect the earth, which is creating practices that conserve our natural environment. And solar power is one of those. And I got to be with your brother on Navajo Nation, and it was a really special program. I was nervous to go, if I'm honest. I'm half Native American, and I used to do powwow dancing, and we'd go to reservations, and I didn't grow up on one. My mom did. And we would stay in homes that didn't have electricity or running water. And one of our trips was literally days before Thanksgiving. And these people couldn't even feed us breakfast because they didn't have enough food. And I thought, here our entire nation is celebrating this supposed camaraderie between First Nations people with immigrants. And here we have no idea the conditions they're living in. So it was really special for us to go and do a small part. And like you said, access to light does help with education, with reading, especially when you can cut down on candles, which have been proven to be pretty bad for your lungs and your eyesight if you're trying to do homework.
And they can cause fires if you're not careful or paying attention. And you're right, there are quite a lot of harmful chemicals and toxins inside of candles, whether they're for being able to see or just to be able to enjoy for smelling. You have to be really careful with those candles and all the toxins that are inside them as well.
Absolutely. Yeah. So it was a great
I think it's so fantastic with everything that we do that it really gives everyone a sense of appreciation and gratitude for what they have. I think there's a lot of brand partners who have joined us on trips, who have seen the impact that the foundation has made and realized, wow, I guess my life isn't so bad. And, there are a lot of people that are dealing with a lot of difficulties in life. They really are. Your next door neighbor, they're dealing with something that you may not know and not be able to understand that.
Yeah.
And so,
which is why in this field, it's so important to just observe and stay quiet, because you have no idea what people are going through. I was part of a project you're familiar with the Syrian refugees that were escaping war and conflict and arriving at these shores in Greece. We did a project there. Somebody donated to give these gifts to kids. And you thought, what can go wrong? Let's just give these kids a bunch of gifts. They haven't gotten anything since who knows when. And I'll never forget a mother who came to us asking, would it be okay if I gave the gift to my child? I have not been able to give them anything in 2 years, and I feel like a failure of a mother. And you think, oh my gosh, of course. Why are we the ones handing these things out? We should be giving these to the parents. And when these kids go to sleep, they shouldn't be thinking of these volunteers or these Westerners who came in as heroes. They should be thinking of their parents or their own teachers or community members. And I love what you said. You have no idea what people are going through, and it's just important to always be humble enough to ask, because there's often a better way to do things.
Yes. And a perfect example of that was years and years ago, after we had just built the road to the finca down in Ecuador. We had this massive monsoon that washed out part of the main road, and it took 2 of the big industrial concrete culverts with it. And we were trying to create basically this barrier to block the water so we could at least start somewhat repairing the road. And one of the workers there, he accidentally got caught by the water, and my dad jumped in and grabbed him and pulled him out. And all the employees there, all the foreigners, they could not understand why this rich white man would jump in and save his life. He asked him, why me? Why me? He said, because you're no different than anybody else here. You're human. Yeah. It's never been different with anybody that I've seen, with anyone that they've encountered. It's always been the exact same. And I think that's one of the biggest things, one of the easiest things that we can actually do, is just to be kind, humble, respectful, and caring, and quiet and observant with everybody that we come across in our lives as well. So with convention coming right around the corner, and obviously with all the amazing fundraisers that we do, this year's fundraiser is a book drive for convention. And I would greatly appreciate if you could kind of explain how this book drive works, and also explain to our audience how they can participate in helping the foundation, whether it be physically or virtually, whatever it may be. And that a lot of people also misunderstand that they don't have to be a Young Living brand partner or part of the Young Living community to help the foundation, to help push and drive these amazing projects that we have going on, that anybody can be part of it as well. Yeah,
I'd love to answer that. I'm going to do it in reverse. I'll end with the book drive.
Sounds great.
But to your point, one of my favorite things, you're aware of the Young Living Academy, our listeners, hopefully. And I was at graduation, and one of the brand partners that was there, actually, they weren't a brand partner. And I was confused. I'm like, wait. She's like, oh, I just use the oils. I love the oils. But I've been sponsoring this kid for years. And I love that. Somebody was passionate about the oils that decided to sponsor a student. And there she was at graduation, seeing them on to graduation. So anyone can support. Definitely different ways to get involved. Of course, you can sponsor a student at our academy and get to know them personally and get some letters from them and write them, and that's always fun. You can donate, which, of course, we're never going to get tired of asking people to donate, so we can do more and more good. And, of course, you'll get updates on how your contributions are used. One way that, if you're more of a hands-on person, there are opportunities to come with us on service trips abroad. So that can be in the form of building schools. So we have some lined up in Mexico to help build some classrooms in places that need them. At our campus in Ecuador, we are currently expanding our campus. So we have lots of projects. We'll be doing one this fall again. We haven't quite nailed the date yet, but you can always frequent our websites to know what service trips are going on. We even have some service trips right now that are conservation based. We did one earlier this year that was reforesting a Palo Santo forest. And that was a really fun one that people enjoyed, who love the environmental side of social impact. Other ways, I always push this one in taking our trainings, how to protect kids online. Get your friends together. Most likely, I would say 100%, in your circles, you have parents who have probably grappling with something that they found on their kid's phone, or a conversation that they found of them talking to a stranger that has escalated. And taking these trainings really empowers you to know how to help people navigate that. And it's completely free. As well as we're coming up with, creating safer places for kids to prevent abuse. I love that type of getting involved because it just allows you to be a resource to your community and your families to help make our world safer. And we have a whole section on ways to get involved with us on our website. I want to say there's like about 9 different ways. And this one that we're working on right now is a book drive. I mentioned expanding our campus in Ecuador, and part of that is to do a world-class library. And so we are doing a book drive to basically put all these books in that library, and we're really excited. It'll be one of the things we'll be doing at convention, and it's starting now. Right now, if you go to our homepage and you click, it's on the home banner, you can click and get more information as to how that works. It's really easy. It'll just have a link to an Amazon wish list, which has been curated by our principal and our staff in Ecuador, of these books that are high priority. And you can choose a book to purchase, and it gets mailed to us. And there'll also be opportunities to buy a book at convention, at our convention booth. And you can even write a little inspirational something on the book that you purchase for us, for a future student to read.
I love it. Fantastic. And one other way that you can also help with fundraising money for the foundation is this year's Battle the Bro #2. Executive Edition. Mm-hmm. So for those of you that aren't familiar with Battle the Bros, Joseph and I have always tried every single year to try and raise as many possible funds as we can for the foundation, because we have seen personally how every single dollar impacts the lives of so many and does so much good. Money in the hands of good people does great things, as my mom and dad always said. And so it's fantastic to just see just how far this money can go, how much we can do with it, how many lives we can help. And so Joseph and I always have a friendly competition, I guess, is a way that you can put it. So Joseph and I did a Battle of the Bros competition a while back, and it was in the middle of COVID when we had done it virtually, and whoever could raise the most funds would shave the other person's head. And the first time around, I received the most funds. I think I was kind of lucky, though. It was right before my wedding, so everybody kind of spared me and made sure I was able to keep my hair. But the second go around last year, Joseph won. He actually pulled through last hour. I think he raised somewhere close to $70,000 or close to is what we ended up raising combined. And he ended up shaving my head. I'd grown my hair out for it, and it looked fabulous. I kind of miss my old hair. I can't say my wife does, but I like the long hair. This year, we're changing it up just a little bit. We're kind of raising the stakes, I guess, if you can say. So we've decided to team up with 2 of our executive members. I've decided to team up with our Chief Operating Officer, Prasad Gankonda, and him and I will be on a team, and Joseph will be teamed up with our President of Young Living, Benjamin Riley, and we're going to see who can raise the most funds together. If Prasad and I can raise the most funds, we'll shave both their heads, and then there's a slight catch, though. So we figured it'd be great to kind of toss a all-in type offer as well. So if we are able to raise over $100,000 worth of funds this year through the Battle of the Bros, all 4 of us will lose our hair. And I am super excited for this because I've already kind of seen some mock-ups of Prasad bald. It worries me because he looks so good bald, I'm almost worried it's going to backfire on us with this. But I also know that it'd be really funny because I don't know if Ben's hair will grow back if we cut his head. So that's another great part about it too. But all in all, Joseph and I and the whole team, we're just super happy to be able to have this opportunity to raise funds in a really fun and entertaining way for the foundation. And next year, it's going to be an even bigger and better and really fun fundraiser. We'll have to see what we come up with next. But that's another way that you can also help make an impact with the foundation.
Yes, absolutely. And we're so grateful for you guys, especially this year, because this does tug at my heart. We're utilizing those funds to cover our school feeding program for a year.
Yeah.
And sometimes I think here we take for granted what a school meal means, but I I've worked and lived in over a dozen countries, developing economies, and the reality of most of these kids go to school hungry, and attention spans run out. Malnutrition and undernutrition stunt brain development, especially in critical years. I've worked with organizations where they would have scans of these kids' brains are half the size because they're not getting their nutrients. And like, how do you expect this child to have a fighting chance at life if their brain will always be smaller than everyone else's? And so to be able to have each of our students get a well-balanced meal so that their brains can just keep growing, they can focus in school, and they're less likely to have experience illnesses, they're less likely to drop out, they're less likely to have other developmental issues. So it's a really magical thing that you guys are doing on the ground. It just means the world to be able to have see a child through high school and onto college. And
yes, for sure. It is just something that we're extremely excited about, super happy to be part of, and we'll always be grateful to be part of it as well. So obviously, before we wrap this up, I really just want to kind of punch back one more time and really tell people that, we're not just asking them money because we're asking you for money. We're asking you for money because this does so much. It impacts the lives of so many that need this. And where this money goes and the way that it impacts the world is truly phenomenal to see. It gives you a little bit of leaky eye syndrome, if I'm being completely honest, just seeing the impact that it makes. And so I'd love if you could kind of just share one more time with everybody, like where their dollar goes and what all it does and the impact that it has behind it.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'll give a little bit of background. The funds will be going to our school feeding program. And this is more than just, feeding kids at school. There's a reason why we do it. After we opened up the academy in 2009, and it's fresh start. We always learn new things as we create this project for these children living in extreme poverty. We realized kids were coming to school hungry. And what does that mean? Their attention spans aren't as great. And malnutrition at home, which is not something we can do much about. We can't go into each home and dictate their menus, but we can create a major dent in what one healthy meal does in a child's life. So we started a school feeding program where they get a breakfast and a lunch, well-balanced, nutritious meal. And this was able to counteract some of those effects of malnutrition and hunger. And so this project is going to helping children thrive and succeed in the classroom, because without proper nutrition, you can stand there and lecture all day long, and it's going to be really difficult for them to have the nutrients to really thrive intellectually, academically. And that's what these contributions are going to go towards.
One thing I also want to share is I really hope people don't think that they have to donate a lot. I think that's kind of the biggest misconception when it comes to fundraisers is people think, oh, well, I need to donate, X amount in order to feel like I'm actually making a difference. And that is absolutely not true. Whatever you feel comfortable donating, whether it's, $1, 10, or even 1 cent, that still goes towards everything that we do and still makes a huge impact. I mean, you don't have to do that if you don't want to, right? There's so many different ways that you can be involved with the foundation, that you can change lives. And that can either be participating in an event that we have, or being part of the fundraiser, coming on the trips that we have. But even if we had 10,000 people that donated 1 penny, that's $100 right there. And that makes a world of difference. It truly does. And so don't feel like you're obligated to donate so much, just a little at a time or whenever you can. It still makes a difference. It still makes an impact. And we are truly grateful for, you wanting to make an impact and making a difference in this world. And I know all the children and everyone that's benefiting from the foundation is extremely grateful for that as well.
Absolutely. I love that you said that, because we have our Dollar Up program, right? Where you can add $1 to your orders, and people might think, okay, I'll give $1, but I don't know what that's going to do.
Yeah.
Well, guess what? On a good month, with that, just 1 month of people giving $1 at checkout, we can build an entire school. And that makes it so everyone who gave that $1 was part of that. And I'm kind of a hippie where I do believe that energy is connected forever. And so even if you donate 10 cents or $1 to this feeding program, you're part of this movement. You're part of this energy and this beauty of, investing in the potential of these students for them to grow.
A huge difference.
A huge difference.
A great difference in this world as well. So it's fantastic.
Because really what moves mountains is just these small contributions in mass. Just us as a community coming together, giving a little bit.
Well said. Well, once again, there's so many different ways that you can be involved and participate with the foundation. Obviously, we'll have 2 fundraisers at convention this year, the book drive and Battle of the Bros. I'm on Team Jacob and Prasad. I'm a little bit biased about it, but I'd love to shave my brother's head again as well as Ben's head. I think it'd be absolutely fantastic. So if you're feeling inclined to keep my hair so my wife still loves me and lets me come to bed with her at night, hop on over to the foundation's website, click on Team Jacob, and submit as much as you want there. So once again, this is all going to a fabulous and a great cause as well. So we really appreciate you, everything that you do. And Arturo, we appreciate everything that you've done, your background, your passion, your enthusiasm for everything that you do, and super excited to have you part of the team and are super appreciative of your team and everything that you guys do. And hope to have you back on the podcast sometime soon.
I'd love to be back soon. Thank you, Jacob.
Great. Let's make it happen. And thank you for tuning into this episode of The Wild Drop. Remember, you can listen on iTunes, Spotify, on YouTube, and our website at www.youngliving.com. Don't forget to oil up Young Living family. This is Jacob Young, dropping out. Take care.